Hello, I'm Susie B and welcome back to SusyBLiving, my channel here on YouTube. Today I want to share with you 5 fantastic crops that you can sow in July, which is the peak of the growing season. I know that you are busy watering, weeding and harvesting at this time of year, but if you sow some seeds in July, then your garden will keep cropping for longer. First up is my favourite vegetable, green beans. And if you want to do a July sowing, then I recommend you do dwarf green beans, because these little powerhouses will take off very, very quickly, and before you know it, you're going to have some wonderful snap beans to eat. At this time of year, I sow them direct. Here, I've already got some that I sowed in modules and planted out, but like I said, sow them direct now. You won't have to worry too much about pests because we're hopefully past the slug and snail stage, and then you can eat these well and truly into August. Next, let's talk about radicchio. This beautiful leafy vegetable adds a pop of colour to your garden and your plate with a wonderful bitter taste. It makes a great contrast to softer tasting leaves like lettuce or spinach. You can sow the seeds direct, but I like to sow them in modules and then plant them out. Radicchio prefers cooler temperatures, so July is the perfect time to get them started. Carrots are a must-have in any garden, and July is an excellent time to sow them. Choose a quick maturing variety so you can get sweet, tender roots. I like to sow them in troughs at this time of year, and the best way I find sowing in troughs is dibbing little holes and then putting in about 3 or 4 seeds, and then from there you can thin out if you want to, but I find it's not really necessary because you're not putting so many seeds into the actual trough and they don't compete that much. Make sure you keep them well watered, and as they start to come up and germinate, don't forget to cover them with some kind of netting because of carrot fly. Kale is one of my favourite leafy greens to eat. This kale here I sowed back in spring and I have been harvesting from it ever since. Sowing some kale in July is a great idea because your kale can then grow on into the autumn, into the cooler weather, and actually that's what it prefers. And then if you don't get your hands on it too early and want to eat it, it will then grow on into winter. I always sow my kale into modules because I can then control where I'm going to put them, and I can control pests as well. So this is called succession sowing, and I do this all year round with kale. I can then start these off while everything else is finishing, and I then will have little plants ready to go out into spaces. Today I am sowing 2 types of kale. One is a curly kale called Reflex, and the other is a semi-curly kale called Pentland Brig. I sow 2 to 3 seeds per module, and then I cover with compost, give it a water, and that's it. And now for a delicacy in the kitchen. Pak choi. Pak choi is a wonderful leaf. It has a really crispy texture. I make a lot of Asian dishes, and you can't be without this veg. A fantastic leaf to sow from the second half of summer. Others include komatsuna, tatsoi and Chinese cabbage. I also sow these into modules because slugs absolutely love pak choi. The trick with these is keep them well watered and in a cool position. And there you have it, 5 wonderful vegetable crops to sow in July. I hope I have inspired you to sow some seeds in July, and I hope that this video was helpful. Don't forget to like, make a comment, and subscribe to SusyBLiving, and I'll see you next time with more hints, tips, tricks, and moon phase gardening. See you later.